I arrived at Dinosaur Valley State Park on a Sunday evening in mid-October. I specifically try to schedule my trips for times where I think there will be less people out on trail, and this trip was no exception. I would meet only one other person on trail. We have a brief encounter for about 30 seconds, said hello, and then we each went on our way. This would be the only person I would see in my entire stay here in the backcountry at Dinosaur Valley State Park. Dinosaur Valley State Park is the closest place for me to go backpacking here in North Texas. It's only about 30 minutes from my house. So it's a really great place for me to be able to run out and do a solo overnight trip here and there. And obviously a great place to take your family and your kids, as I did on our last backpacking trip out here. It had rained a couple days prior to this trip, and before that it had been a really dry late summer, early fall here in North Texas. But you can see here on the Dinio Creek trail, the creek did have water in it. Dinio Creek will hold water most of the year, but in late summer it can go dry for sure. Dinio Creek Trail is one of my favorites out at Dinosaur Valley State Park. It's just a really nice trail to be able to walk. There are several backcountry campsites along this trail, and you're close to water no matter which one of them you stay at. So this was a pretty short hike in. It was only about 1.5 miles to 2 miles. I just really needed to get away and go on a solo overnight trip. Just wanted to get out into the woods for a while. I used to take a lot of solo trips, but here recently, within the last couple years, it seems every trip I go on, I've been meeting up with people and going out with people from YouTube or friends and family, and I really enjoy a good solo trip. Not that I haven't enjoyed all my other backpacking trips. It's been fun meeting people and going out and experiencing new things, but there's just something to be said for getting out in the woods by yourself. So I wanted to bring my hammock set up along on this trip. I have a War Bonnet tarp and War Bonnet Ridge Runner hammock. It's just the absolute best night's sleep I can get out of any of the different setups I have. Just, man, I sleep so good in that, and it's really nice to be able to take it out. It's a shame that places like Big Bend don't allow hammocks, and now Guadalupe Mountains no longer allows hammocks, so it's very unfortunate for the people who are responsible setting up their hammocks. But anyway, on this trip I also brought along my Foster's pot. This is just a super simple stove. I love this thing. It's my favorite stove. It's real easy and fun to burn the Esbit. I just boiled water and had beans with some spices I put in there, and Fritos and hot sauce for dinner. Just a super simple dinner. Wanted to keep everything about this trip simple, so went with that. I'm just trying to simplify as much stuff in life as possible. Got off social media, and I'm not telling you what to do, but let me tell you, I have way less stress in my life now that I'm not constantly looking at Facebook and dealing with all the just crap that's on there. Anyway, so after that I climbed into my hammock and watched a few videos I had downloaded. Watched Clint from the Not Lost Nomad, his last Guadalupe Mountains video. Watched Jupiter Hikes, finish his Tahoe Rim Trail through hike. Just anything like that that can get me inspired to be out in the woods, I always enjoy. After that, I brushed my teeth and settled down in my hammock for the night. The moon was super bright. It's starting to get pretty chilly, so I covered up and drifted off to sleep. When I said I usually get a good night in the War Bonnet Ridge Runner, I was definitely not wrong. It was a really great night's sleep and perfect weather, like I said. The next morning, got up and then had some coffee. Warmed my hands up by the Esbit stove and enjoyed my first cup of coffee. And of course, when you enjoy one thing, you got to have another. So went back just a little while later and boiled up some more water for a second cup. It's just great getting out on a trip like this where I have no miles and no plans and no reason that I have to hike fast or anything. So it was nice to just lounge around in the hammock and enjoy all the coffee. But eventually I did have to get packed up. There's usually a little more to packing up and setting up a hammock setup. There's just more cords, more things. They're a little more finicky, but I really don't mind as long as I get to enjoy the night's sleep like I did last night. Here's all my stuff, a kind of a gear explosion out of my backpack, but eventually all packed up and out on the trail. Took the Denio Creek Trail over to the Rocky Ridge Trail and took that on the way back. There's several different ways you can get around the Dinosaur Valley backcountry network of trails. This is just the way that I chose to come back. Really pretty morning, watching the sun shine through the trees and bounce off the grass. That's the thing about North Texas is we don't have mountains. It's pretty flat here. This is the Lakes and Prairies region, but there's definitely beauty everywhere you look. So overall, just a really peaceful hike this morning. Didn't meet anybody else on trail, and could only hear way off in the distance on the other side of the river some people. And I think they were actually out fishing as a family, so that was pretty neat to be able to see. Really enjoyed this trip. Like I said, great to get out solo and just take in being out in the woods. Everything comes in cycles. We went through a long cycle of not being able to get out and backpack, and now it looks like I'm coming into a part of the year where I'll be able to get out and enjoy nature and spend some time out in the mountains and the woods. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for following along, and we'll see you next time.